Happy Wednesday. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Shalanabattles. I am indie author of 2 books, Soul Jumper, which is a paranormal romance, and The Man Before You, which is a contemporary romance. I am publishing my 3rd book this month. It's called Encampment. It is a young adult fantasy, and I'm super excited to get that out for you guys. So make sure you're following me on Facebook and Instagram, because later this month we'll be doing a lot of really cool stuff, giveaways and book promotions and release week, and those weeks are always super fun. And so keep your eyes open for that. I had mentioned last week that I wanted to talk a little bit about my editing process. I've had a couple of people ask questions about it, so I thought it would be a fun thing to do a video about. It's also a little bit my writing process, I guess, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. Anytime I start a project, I start in Google Docs, and so you can start anywhere you want. I know people that use Google Docs. I know people that use Word. I know people that use other writing software to put their stuff in and to work on it. And so really whatever you like. I prefer Google Docs for a couple of reasons. I started writing when I was still teaching full-time, and so it was very convenient for me to be able to access my writing anywhere. I often was in my classroom where I had my desktop or a laptop or whatever, but if I was somewhere else in the school and I had a few minutes for whatever reason, it was easy for me to hop on another computer or grab a laptop from the library or whatever the case may be and have access to everything. The other really cool thing about Google Docs is I can work on stuff offline. Me and my husband do a lot of traveling, and so when I'm on the road and I don't have internet access, I can still be working. And when I say we do long road trips, we do super long road trips. Maybe a month ago, we drove all the way to Michigan and from Colorado. And so my husband always drives, thank God. But that gives me time to write while we're on the road, and I don't have to have internet to do it. And so using Google Docs for me is really nice. It also, if I'm visiting family or whatever and I don't want to pack my laptop, I still have access to all of my stuff. So that's kind of the 2 main reasons I use Google Docs, is the fact I can access it from anywhere. It doesn't have to be my computer, and I can still work even if I have no internet. And that's what's kind of kept me using Google Docs. Going into like the process a little bit, my phone never wants to show on this thing, but we'll see if I can make it do it. So when I go into my Google Docs, I have folders. I think you can a little bit see those. And one of those folders is books. And if you go in, books I've published have folders. And then you have all of these other documents. And so when I'm writing, I have files for everything. And so it's not just my current project or just my past projects. If I get an idea for something, I make a file for it in Google Docs, and sometimes those Google Docs literally have 1 sentence. Sometimes they have a whole page. I have one right now I think is like 3 or 5 pages long, because sometimes things will just hit me and I don't want to forget them, but I'm not in a place where I can work on them or like fully commit to them because I'm, focused on whatever it is my current project at that moment. But I will forget those ideas if I don't jot them down. And so that's another really nice thing about Google Docs, is I can open up a document, jot something down, throw it in a folder, and come back to it later and be able to work on it or start there. So right now, just to give you kind of an idea, obviously Soul Jumper and The Man Before You have their own folders. Those are completed projects now. Encampment has a folder. The series that I'm working on for After Encampment has a folder. And then I have 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4 other documents that are separate from anything I've written. Those are all their own thing, with varying levels of notes on there or scenes, because sometimes a specific scene will hit me. I have maybe no beginning, no middle, no end, but a scene hits me and I'll put that in here because it will eventually lead to a bigger story. I also keep a folder or a document in this folder of just ideas. And so these they're bullet points. They're not as fully fleshed out as these scenes that either I'll put under like working title or I'll give it a title that may change later. These are just ideas. So that's kind of how I start a project. I open up Google Docs and either pull up something that I already had saved in there where I had an idea, or I start fresh. The Man Before You, when I started working on that, I had no notes on it. It was just a really strong idea I had while I was still writing Soul Jumper, and so that started with a blank page, and now it's a whole book. Some of those others, I will obviously go back and I'll open them and I'll have, 2 or 3 pages written, maybe 1 or 2 scenes, and I'll have to go back and actually form the story. And so that's kind of where I begin. Once I finish in Google Docs, I do my first set of edits on my computer. And some people hate this, but for my first set of edits, I'm really looking at catching as many mistakes as I can, obviously, and plot holes and things like that. But I'm also looking at word usage. And so I can quickly do Control F and find words. I can look up, how many times did I use the word feel? How many times did I use the word believe? How many times did I use the word think? And very quickly find those in the document and then do what I need to do to minimize their usage, because no matter how hard you try when you're writing that first draft, those words somehow always just come up a lot. So I really like doing that first set of edits on my computer, where I can choose to kind of either read the document all the way through or search for specific things. It just kind of makes that first go of edits a lot quicker because it's not as detailed. I'm not as focused on line by line or super specific details. I'm really looking at words I can cut out, sentence structure. If while I was writing, I wrote something down, that's another part of my writing process. I'll be writing and I don't want to stop necessarily, but sometimes problems arise, right? And okay, this is going to be a plot hole for me, or I'm going to need more description here. And so a lot of times I'll keep a running list of things I need to go back and check or go back and do. And that's really what this first set of edits is about, is looking for those big picture things and then getting rid of some of those repetitive words. Once I do that, I send my draft to beta readers. Now, a huge mistake I made with that I made with Soul Jumper, my first book, was not using beta readers. I went, write it, edit it myself, send it to an editor. And honestly, I didn't really know what a beta reader was when I started this process. And it was my editor who was like, hey, it would really help our process if you use beta readers before you sent this to me. And so I did that with The Man Before You, and obviously it helped tremendously. It helped huge with Encampment. And so that's where my process is now. Once I do that first round of edits myself, then it goes to beta readers. I don't use a ton of beta readers. I keep it usually around 6 because I don't want to get overwhelmed with feedback. But 6 is a good number in terms of, you'll see multiple people mention the same things and like, okay, this is obviously confusing, or I'm missing something here, or hey, all of them really loved this part. So it gives you enough of like a look at what the majority thinks without being bogged down from like 30 opinions. And I'm very specific with my beta readers as well, in the sense that I tell them their expectations from the start. I let them know, hey, I don't expect you to fix grammar and spelling and sentence structure and like be an editor. I don't expect that from you. I do want to know, do you like the book? Is it confusing? Were there parts you felt like you still had questions about at the end? Was there things you would have liked to see? So for me, my beta relationship is very much about, did you like it? And then was there confusion? Was there, things you would have rather seen? Things like that. It's very much opinion based. And some of them will come back and catch typos and give those to me, which is awesome. But I don't expect that, and I really do just want to know, do you like it? Did it make sense? And so that's another thing with beta readers that I now understand is you do have to establish kind of expectations at the beginning. What do you want from them? And so a lot of my beta readers I've used both times. So with The Man Before You, with Encampment. Some of them I know I will use again with this series that I'm working on. And that's helpful too because you develop that relationship, that kind of working relationship. And so that's great. Finding beta readers is hard. It's really hard because people are basically doing you a favor. I mean, honestly, that's what it is. They're not getting anything out of it. They're reading a book for free before it's published, which is really cool. But they don't get any like compensation for helping you. And so it's hard to find people that have the time and will take the time and will give you the feedback, really just because they want to or they love reading. I am lucky because I know I do have a few that will stick with me. But I mean, you can open it up on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is that you use. And hopefully people respond and are willing to help you. You can also pay for beta readers on things like Fiverr and things like that. I try to avoid that if possible. But it is an option if you're really struggling to find somebody to give you some sort of feedback. And so options on that. After the beta readers give me it back, and I'm a person that I wait for all of my beta feedback. Some people will get one and get to work while they're waiting on the others. But I'm definitely a person, if 6 people have it, I wait for all 6 to return it to me before I start looking at those things, at their comments and stuff like that. Because I like to compare what they say. If 4 people all mention, hey, this part was confusing to me, obviously that's something I need to look at. If only one person says, whatever about this one part, but the others didn't have anything to say about it, I may glance at it, but I'm probably not going to spend as much time on it. And so I like to have all of the feedback there at once so that I can do my second edit which is way more in-depth. So for this one, I do print, and I'll show you. Excuse the front page because my son colored all over it. But this is encampment. And this is after I got beta feedback. And so I print it and I go through it. And now we really are looking at more of line by line edits. So this is the first page of encampment right here. I don't know how well you guys will be able to see this, or if it's blurry. But I go through and I'm doing a couple of things. I'm reading line by line, and I'm also looking at that beta feedback. So it's kind of like a multitasking thing. I'm only looking at a hard copy at this point because trying to juggle the hard copy, the beta feedback, and my laptop copy would just be too much. And I know a lot of people that edit color-coded. I do not do that. That is a step above what my brain can handle at all at one time. So what I do is, my pink highlighter is not in here. I think it's in my bag. I take a highlighter and I take a pen, and like encampment, I was using a red pen. So if I use one pen, it'd be the pen for the whole thing. So if I started with a purple pen, I will end with a purple pen. I usually use a pink highlighter, but yellow, whatever. So these two things, that's what I do. And I go through line by line, like I say, and I'll make notes in pen, or I'll make edits in pen. So like right here, I changed 2 shorter sentences to 1 longer sentence. So I marked, out the capital on that next sentence, made it a lowercase, and do what I gotta do. Highlighter I'll use for other things. If I have questions or need to look up how to spell something, I'll usually highlight it and circle it. Or if there's like a plot thing, I'll highlight it in one place, and then if I find it later, I'll highlight it again. Or if I never find it, I'll make a note like, hey, this does need to be resolved. So the highlighter is kind of used for more plot, and the pen is used for more spelling, grammar, commas, sentence structure, things like that. So I go through the entire document that way, while also looking at the beta feedback and putting that stuff in here as well. And there's times where I'll start writing on the side of the page and flip the page and write on the back, because sometimes, especially with beta feedback, if you're adding like an entire scene or something, that's going to take up space. So that takes a bit, and I usually give myself a few days to do that because line edits take time, and reading in that level of detail takes some time. Once I do that, my favorite part comes. I send it to my editor. And I like this part because it means it's break time. So for me, my editor usually takes about 2 weeks to get through my books. And I don't do anything those 2 weeks in terms of writing. And honestly, I would really recommend, if you're a writer, to do that. If you send your work off to your editor, take a break. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. Nothing. Don't work on it. Because there's a couple of reasons for that. I noticed with Soul Jumper, I kept working on Soul Jumper and kept looking at Soul Jumper, and it makes it very difficult to see it with fresh eyes when your editor gives their feedback. And then it also complicates things further because you never stepped away from it. It's harder, I think, to take that constructive criticism, which is understandable because anytime you have something that you poured your heart and soul into and you've worked on for what feels like forever, and then you have people criticizing that, it's hard to swallow sometimes. But if you never left it, you kind of get this tunnel vision, in my opinion, And so it's hard to see another perspective. It's hard to see how it's going to improve your work. Now, with The Man Before You, I completely stepped away. With Encampment, I completely stepped away. When she had it for those 2 weeks, I did not look at it. I did not think about it. Nothing. I didn't write. Some people I know will work on other projects separate from whatever their editor has. I usually just take a break. Give myself time to kind of recharge, refresh, and not think about writing for a little bit. And that has helped me too, I think, with like not feeling burnt out. Then when I get it back from my editor, it's so much easier for me to see it from her perspective and see it with fresh eyes and look at her notes and be like, wow, how did I miss that? Or yeah, that is going to sound better this way. And not get immediately defensive. And I'm very lucky because even when my editor is giving me constructive criticism, she does so extremely nicely in the way that she words things. And so that's the other thing. I would find an editor who you have that good working relationship with, that you trust and that is respectful and can present their comments in a way that is respectful to you and to your work. And if you work with somebody and that's not the case, work with somebody else. I got very fortunate when I found my editor. We have an amazing working relationship. I definitely consider her a friend at this point. And that's been great. And so find somebody that meshes well with you and understands your vision and what you want. But yes, take a break, step away, don't look at it. And then when you get it back, I promise seeing it with fresh eyes will seem a lot easier. And it's easier when you get things like, hey, this isn't a very strong sentence, to be like, oh yeah, that's not a very strong sentence, as opposed to like, what are they talking about? That's beautiful, So give yourself a break. Step away from it for a little bit, and come back to it with those fresh eyes. Once that happens, and I get it back, I print it again, and this one is a little bit different because I used my printed one less than the first time I printed. And the reason for that is my editor leaves comments on the document on the computer. And so something I forgot to mention as well is my editor works in Word. So I do everything in Google Docs up to the point of sending it to her. Then once it gets sent to her, I'm now in Microsoft Word. And that is solely because it's her preference. So I do that to kind of accommodate what she likes, and it's fine for me. It works out well. And so I finish in Google Docs. I do those online edits in Google Docs. I send it to my beta readers in Google Docs. I get it back. I print it. I make those changes in Google Docs. And then as soon as it goes to my editor, it's now a Word document. So when she sends it back to me, if you've worked in Word, you can see where people add comments and they show up on the screen. And so even though I print the document, I am looking mostly at my computer screen at this point because it's a lot easier to go through her comments, accept the changes, read what she's saying. If she makes a note off to the side, it's a lot easier for me to just add or change whatever I need to while looking at that comment. And then I don't delete a comment or click accept on something until it's completely done. And so that's the other reason, because then I can quickly scroll through, okay, did I miss any comments? Sometimes I'll skip comments if she leaves a note that's kind of bigger, where I know like, okay, this is going to take me a while, hours to fix this plot hole or whatever the case may be, I'll move on to the next comment and get through a lot of those quick ones, and then go back and look at those ones that are more lengthy and pay attention to those. So I have the printed document mostly to reference. Again, I travel quite a bit, so if there's somewhere we're going, I still have a physical copy if I need it. But honestly, once I have my editor's comments on that Word document, it's just easier to see her comments and make the changes on the computer itself. And once I do that, with Soul Jumper, we did this process multiple times. So she sent me feedback, I fixed it, I sent it back. She sent more feedback, I fixed it, I sent it back. That was a long process. The Man Before You, we did it twice. So she sent me the feedback, I fixed it, I sent it back. She sent me feedback, I fixed it, and we published. Encampment, we're down to one. And so I sent it to her, she sent it back to me with feedback, making those changes, publishing this month. And so we've really broken down our process. And I love that for both of us. I feel like we've come a really long way since I published Soul Jumper. And now I'm curious. Let's see. Just out of curiosity. That's what I thought. October of 2020. And so in October, I will have been doing this a year. It feels like I've been doing it longer. So in a year's time, I think that's a lot of growth in my writing process, in my editing process, and I'm happy with that. I'm really excited about how far I've come and how far I've come with my editor, and hopefully we can continue to streamline the process. I never want to not have an editor. I think I need one. I think most writers would agree with me that having a second set of eyes, a professional set of eyes, is hugely beneficial. So I don't see that ever going away for me completely. But I think it's really cool that I've evolved to this point of, I don't want to say feeling less dependent on her. I'd put it more confident in myself. And so I'm a lot more confident in myself and my writing. And I'm happy that we've gotten to that point. And I think it's really cool to look back at the last year and kind of see that evolution. And so that's my process. A little bit writing process, not a ton, but that was definitely part of this. A lot of editing process. And so we're about to finish that up right now with Encampment and get that out. And then we will start the process over again with the series I'm working on. So if you have any questions on editing, please leave them in the comments below or reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to help you with any questions that I can answer or you think I can answer, or kind of point you in the right direction if I'm not sure. Also, I'd love to hear what you do. So if you're a writer, regardless of if you've published or not yet, I would love to hear about your process. What's your writing process? What's your editing process? What really works for you? Have you done anything that you're just like, that ain't it? That is not gonna work. Let me know down below, because I think it's really important for authors, I think, to share those things with each other, because you might find something that really clicks with you just from hearing, oh, hey, they said this and I'm gonna try it and it worked out really well. And so let me know down below. This next series that I'm working on will be the first time I've ever outlined anything. I'm definitely a fly by the seat of my pants writer. I heard the term discovery writer not that long ago, and that's definitely me. But I'm gonna try to outline this next series, and so I may do a video on that in the future as well. But if you have questions, let me know. I'd love to hear about your process down below. Again, thank you all for your support and your encouragement. And stay with me on Instagram and on Facebook because, like I said, a lot of really fun stuff is coming up with Encampment being published. All right, remember to love yourself, believe in yourself, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of the week. We are halfway through, so have a good week, have a good weekend, and I will check back with you guys Saturday.